Kevin Kugler joins us right now. He guarantees it's going to be an entertaining broadcast because he is the play-by-play guy on this game with Fox Sports, with Daryl Johnston and Allison Williams, and he joins us right now on the Fan Hotline. Kevin, good morning to you.
Just a caveat, my guarantees are not valid in the state of Ohio.
Well, then what the hell do we have you for, Kevin? No. Thank you for joining us this morning, Kevin. Getting ready for week one. Got football tonight. Nick Sirianni is going to acknowledge the banner going up over.
I love that. I love that so much.
What? Hey, just real quick. I know it ain't your game right now, Kevin, but why? You got to go out there. You got to acknowledge that. I mean, everybody on earth had you fired after week 4 last year, and you went on to a run to a Super Bowl. You can't acknowledge it. You can't acknowledge the banner.
I don't know why you don't acknowledge it. It doesn't make any sense to me. But in the context of the coach and everything that goes on there, you know what? Probably it makes a little more sense.
He is a strange bird. Kevin Kugler joining us here in the Fan Hotline. All right, so you got one team that has been a disappointment the last couple of years, finished 9-8 last year, and then you got another team that's kind of in a state of flux. It's all over the place right now with the Browns. What do you expect to see on Sunday?
I'm hoping for competitiveness from both teams. That's the first thing, because as I said, apparently I guaranteed a good broadcast, and a good game is what I will add to my guarantee. But I think what you'll see is offense. I really do think both of these teams have the potential to put up some points. The question for me is the same that you had last year with Cleveland. Are you going to turn over the ball, and if so, how many times? Because when you turn it over as much as they did last year, you're going to go 3-14. That's the nature of this league. You cannot go to the playoffs. You cannot win games if you don't value the football. And Cleveland didn't value the football last year, and you were 3-14 as a result. And the Bengals, everybody knows the story of their slow starts, and I'm sure people will be frustrated because we'll talk about it at the top of the broadcast. Just a reminder that not everybody who watches our broadcast has, great takes and great thoughts like you guys do who listen every day.
Thank you.
But you're welcome. But this is the story with the Bengals. They've changed their entire preseason routine to try to not be 0-2 to start a season for the 4th straight year. So I think you've got two teams that feel like they've got something to prove, two teams that I know think they're better than they were a year ago. But again, can the Browns keep from turning it over? Can the Bengals stop anybody? That's going to be the real question this year, is what that defense does for the Bengals. Their offense is going to be good, assuming health. Is their defense going to be able to stop anybody during the course of this season?
What I love about this game is obviously that it's the opener between two teams that know each other. A lot of trash talk, especially when it comes to the Browns and some of their defensive players.
The secondary with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins.
I absolutely love it because they have been able to beat the Bengals. They're 5-3 against Joe Burrow, which is, I think, hard to believe if you told people outside of Cleveland that stat. But with that said, Kevin, it seems like the lead up to this game for Cincinnati, they're making this seem like the biggest start to a season ever.
There's a lot of pressure on them. And there's a lot of pressure on Zach Taylor. There's a lot of pressure on the franchise, because I think you've got a franchise that's starting to worry, are we wasting Joe Burrow? Are we wasting his prime years? Are we wasting a franchise generational quarterback if we don't get this thing turned around quickly? So I think there's a ton of pressure on the Bengals in this opener, maybe more so than on any team in opening week in the National Football League this year. I can't think of any other team that the entire storyline has been, you're not very good in the first 2 weeks of the season, like it's been for the Cincinnati Bengals, really in the entire tenure of Zach. 1-11 in the first 2 weeks of a season. The only win coming in overtime against the Vikings in 2021. I mean, this is the story for the Bengals, and I do think there is a lot of pressure on them to come out of the gates strong against a team they're favored to beat, but against a team that you said is 5-3 against Joe Burrow, and Joe's got one win in the city of Cleveland his entire career. I mean, this is not exactly an easy game for Joe Burrow in a game that the Bengals are putting a lot of pressure and emphasis on, that they have to get out of the gate strong this year.
And when he won that game, Kevin, it felt, I mean, he almost looked like when Steve Young won the Super Bowl, and he was looking like, can somebody get the monkey off my back? He was that excited to get that win. Joe Flacco, though, against the Bengals, 4,500 passing yards. Of course, played against the Bengals a whole bunch of times when he was the franchise quarterback of the Ravens. 40-year-old guy. You know, a lot of people don't expect him to finish the season as the starting quarterback with the Browns. What do you expect from him? What is he saying he expects from himself this year?
We had him quite a bit when the Browns brought him off the couch in 2023. For some reason, our crew that year just kept landing on the Browns games. Sorry, Browns fans. And we ended up having 2 or 3 of those games that Joe had down the stretch. If you can tell me it's going to be that Joe Flacco, I think Browns fans are going to be very happy. He was tremendous. And I don't know that you can expect that fast forwarding 2 years, more hits later, more interceptions the last 2 years than starts. I mean, Joe's still got the great arm. I expect Joe to zip the ball down the field. I expect him to be able to hit a receiver in stride 35 yards out. I don't know what he's going to do to elude a pass rush. You've got to hope that offensive line is a little bit better with Mike Bloomgren kind of running the show now up front. I don't know what you're going to see from Joe Flacco from the ability to maneuver this team up and down the field, and is there going to be a run game to help support him? I think that's the biggest question with this offense outside of what the quarterback situation looks like, is especially early when you're still unsure what's going on with Quinshon Judkins. Is Jerome Ford going to be that guy who's going to be able to give you a consistent run threat as a Browns offense to take some of the pressure off Joe Flacco? If it's consistently 3rd down and 8 and beyond, then that doesn't bode well for this Browns offense all season, regardless of who's playing quarterback. Whether you have one of the 2 rookies, whether you have Joe Flacco, whether you have somebody off the practice squad, it doesn't matter. If you can't run the football at all, and I know this is a passing league and you're going to have to throw the ball a lot, but you've got to have some semblance of a run game, especially with a quarterback who is advanced in years and is not necessarily the most mobile of guys and really never has been.
Do you have any reason to believe Cincinnati's defense can take a step forward this year?
Other than just blind optimism that Al Golden is going to be the guy who comes in and sparks this team? Not really. I mean, you have to hope, if you're a Bengals fan, that your secondary is going to go back to where they have been. Can Cam Taylor-Britt play like a number 1 corner again? That's a question. I don't know. Is Trey Hendrickson – I mean, look, Trey Hendrickson's probably going to have plenty of pass rushes, plenty of pressures, plenty of sacks, but that didn't exactly help them last year. Somebody else has got to come along for the ride. Shamar Stewart, somebody has got to be the guy on the opposite side. I know the Browns have had similar questions on the opposite side of Myles Garrett. Are they excited about Alex Wright? It seems like it, but is that going to be the guy to provide that heat on the other side when Myles Garrett gets the attention? It's a very similar conversation with the Bengals right now, is who's going to be the person on the other side to help out Trey Hendrickson, and I don't know that that's been determined yet. Maybe we'll start to see glimpses of that coming up on Sunday. But again, Trey Hendrickson led the National Football League in sacks. He's the top sack guy in the league the last 2 years, and it really hasn't helped the Bengals. That defense was really, really bad last season. It's got to be better because, again, you've got an offense that's going to put up points that has skill at every position. It's the defense for the Bengals that's the giant question going into this season. If it's not better, then they won't be better.
You know, we were talking earlier, we're joined by Kevin Kugler right now. It's going to be on the call this weekend in Cleveland. Joe Burrow has said very nice things about the Browns defense. It was a couple of years ago. He's had like 85 passing yards. It was an abysmal performance. He was banged up. There was a little rain, obviously. Situation's not going to be identical this week. But do you think, Zach Taylor will have the whole scheme revolving around making sure Myles Garrett doesn't single-handedly wreck this game?
I think you have to. I mean, you still have questions against the outside of that with the Browns, obviously, and you're trying to figure out if you can recapture the magic of 2 years ago when it was the top defense in the National Football League. No Owusu-Koramoah, that's a huge loss. I thought the Martin Emerson injury was really big, and I expected Jordan Hicks, when the preseason started, was going to be somebody that contributed, and then he tapped out 2 days into camp. So I think there's still a lot of things that you're looking at with this Browns defense that are questions, and they're questions too for Zach Taylor. But the one question is not Myles Garrett. You know what Myles Garrett provides. You know what he's going to do. And I think if you're anybody who's scheming against the Browns, especially in week one, the known commodity is Myles Garrett. How do you stop him? You figure you throw everything at him. You throw the kitchen sink at him to try to keep him from wreaking havoc. And then you see, look, if Alex Wright comes out and has 3 sacks in this game, you tip your cap. I mean, you probably don't if you're Zach Taylor because you're very angry at that point. But you tip your cap as somebody who watches this game and you say, you know what? They got somebody else now to go alongside Myles Garrett who can make some plays. And I think that's one of the things I'm anxious to see from this Browns defense. Among other things, there's a ton of great stories in this game. I'm excited for it.
Kevin Kugler, Fox Sports, with us on the Fan Hotline. So there's going to be some fans who roll their eyes at this, but I just can't help myself.
All right.
Will there be any shots of Shedeur Sanders on the sideline, any conversation about him at all during the game?
I understand there will be eyes rolling. I assume there will be a little conversation, but here's the thing I would say, and maybe Shedeur at some point in his career, maybe some point this year, becomes the Browns starting quarterback. Like you guys said, who knows if Joe Flacco is going to be the quarterback at the end of this season. The conversation will likely be limited to the quarterback position as a whole. I don't know that it's going to focus specifically on Shedeur because he's the number 3 quarterback right now. He's likely going to only be available in an emergency if Flacco and Gabriel both get hurt. So the quarterback conversation, at least as far as I'm concerned, and I'm sure Moose feels the same way, my partner, Daryl Johnston, to me, the conversation is more of a big picture conversation because it's week 1. Right now, Joe Flacco is the starter. You look at that first half of the schedules, I'm sure everybody has, and you say, woof, that's a lot to throw a rookie into. I don't care which rookie quarterback it is. But you also have to look to the future and say, we need to know what we have at that quarterback position before going into the draft next year when there's potentially other quarterbacks available that you might be in a position to take. So I think that's the bigger conversation as far as I'm concerned is the quarterback position as a whole. I don't know that Shedeur is going to be the guy that gets a whole lot of the spotlight in this game.
So you call a lot of football. We've heard you on Westwood One here on this station. We've heard you obviously we've watched you and heard you on Fox Sports. There's been 60-plus QBs that have started in the season over the last couple of years. It's an exceedingly high number now. Is there a theory that you have, or maybe even Moose has, about what we're doing wrong either in the pros or in college with some of these guys?
My theory is sort of a mix. I look at it and say, in one aspect, we are paying these guys so much that we're putting them in right away, and we're expecting them to be great right away. And when they're not great right away, we discard them because Josh Rosen set the table for all of this. Remember the Arizona Cardinals years and years ago, drafted in first round. He flamed out. They threw him into the fire with a team that wasn't ready for a rookie quarterback. He flamed out and he basically disappeared, bounced around the league a few years. They went and drafted Kyler Murray the very next year, and they tossed him aside. He was done. It was a first-round pick that lasted a year. They tossed him aside. I think we've gotten into that mindset now with rookie quarterbacks. I mean, even as late as Patrick Mahomes, remember, as great as Patrick Mahomes is, he sat the first year behind Alex Smith in Kansas City. He had a year to watch. And I'm not saying that's the end-all, be-all. We've seen young quarterbacks like last year, for example, Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix, and even Drake May got better as the season went along as rookie quarterback. So it's not a tried-and-true theory. But I do think there are some quarterbacks that we rush into this thing too quickly. And we look at this and say, we've got to have a decision right now. We're paying you X amount of dollars. We need some sort of return on that investment. And if we don't get that return, we're going back into the draft and we're getting something else. We as a society, perhaps it's a societal question, we go out and if this thing doesn't work, we don't fix it anymore. We toss it aside and we go buy a new one from, whatever big box store we want to buy it from, and we throw the other thing away. We don't ever work on fixing that stuff anymore because we just toss it aside and get something else. It's kind of the same mindset I've seen with quarterbacks in this league over the last decade. And to me, it started with Josh Rosen in Arizona.
Well, Kevin, when you make the fabulous leases so affordable and I don't have to go about fixing anything, so let's not start about the right to repair laws in this country. I mean, my God, no, I'm kidding. Kevin, thank you so much for the time. Hopefully we'll run into each other on Sunday. If not, enjoy your time here in Cleveland. Have a great call on Sunday. I obviously hope the Browns win. You can't say anything, but still enjoy your time here.
I will. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you. Kevin Kugler joining us from Fox Sports on the Fan Hotline.